So I spoke at the beginning of the event about the purpose of the Capstone Workshop. What I did not mention is that one of the reasons, or another reason that we do this course, is to provide a public service to organizations in government and the not-for-profit sector who do not have the resources to pay for this kind of consulting. And tonight we saw examples of that. In the case of New York City Public Schools, in this relatively small organization working on vertical farming, and next for an organization called the Bronx River Alliance. And I'd like to ask you to welcome Megan Ross to the podium for a presentation about that work. Megan.
Thanks, George. Good evening, everyone. My name is Megan Ross, and I led the team that worked with the Bronx River Alliance this semester. I'm pleased to share with you our strategies for waste reduction on the Bronx River. Throughout New York City's history, the Bronx River has suffered from pretty bad waste pollution as a result of poor watershed management, but community activism has led to impressive changes, but maintaining the Bronx River is still a work in progress. The Bronx River still suffers from an influx of waste that accumulates in its waters and on the lands around it, much of which is parkland. And our project objective was to develop strategies to reduce this waste and keep it out of the river. A healthy river can be an environmental asset and a source of community pride, but waste detracts from that value. Waste can impede water flow and introduce pollutants into the watershed-sensitive environment. And waste materials of any size can break down into micropieces that can then be ingested by wildlife and make their way up the food chain. Trash in the Bronx River is a problem for the ecosystem because it diminishes the quality of habitat for plant life, aquatic life, and wildlife, and it's a problem for the community because it inhibits our opportunities to interact with and enjoy the natural environment. So we studied the ways in which 3 notable waste sources reach the river: street trash, illegal dumping, and park litter, and identified strategies to reduce that waste at its source. Our client asked us to consider strategies in 4 different pathways for change. They were interested particularly in how to advocate for policies that would cut waste, in affordable physical interventions, in outreach and education programs that would spark change, and in how community partners could amplify our clients' efforts. So as a team, first, we wanted to understand the problem. We analyzed waste data to determine the types of waste that showed up in the river, what its material was, and where it was found. And we used these data to identify several hotspots, which we then visited in person to see what other factors were influencing that waste accumulation. We conducted interviews with public officials and community activists, and we also researched case studies to see what other urban watersheds were doing to confront waste pollution on their own shores. And after that, we touched base with the client to get their initial feedback. And then we developed specific recommendations, always keeping in mind how these recommendations would be implemented, what potential costs would be involved, who the key stakeholders would be, and especially how the impact of those recommendations could be measured. Waste pollution is a very complex problem, and reducing it is a long-term challenge. When waste enters the river in the upstream areas of Westchester, that trash flows downstream and ends up on the shores of the Bronx, which also has waste management issues of its own. And in this case, the upstream community is much more affluent than the downstream community, which exacerbates the problem. And the Bronx has fewer resources to address a problem for which it's only partially responsible. Our community interviews alerted us to other issues, more pressing problems in the downstream communities that can sometimes overshadow the specific problem of waste pollution in the river. So understanding the systemic factors at play here was very important to our project. And long ingrained habits can be a challenge to behavior change in general. Single-use items like fast food containers and plastic bags consistently show up in the river over and over. And the habits of consuming and discarding these items can be very hard to break. So it helped us to consider the progressive steps of behavior change. First, to raise awareness. Second, to spark individual action. And then later, to enhance community change over the long term. We considered a lot of attractive options, but we had to consider the capacity of our client in developing solutions. They have a very focused mission, a small team, and a limited budget. We came up with several strategies that align with their mission and can extend their impact, and I'll highlight a few of them for you now. First of all, we recommend advocating for an EPS ban in Westchester County. EPS is expanded polystyrene. It's what people typically call styrofoam, the foam-like plastic you see in the cup pictured here. Data show that EPS is the most commonly found type of waste in the river. And styrofoam bans have previously been suggested in Westchester County, but they have not gained traction. We think that the styrofoam ban about to go into effect in New York City has the opportunity to influence Westchester's legislature to adopt a similar ban. So we're providing our client with a handbook by which they can design an advocacy strategy for this issue and others in the future. What's the objective? Who are the stakeholders involved and what's their influence? And how to advocate for policies to a legislature or other decision makers. A successful advocacy strategy will also mobilize community support, and it'll utilize relevant media for effective messaging. Starlight Park at 174th Street in the Bronx exemplifies some of the physical solutions we came up with. For high-use spots like the picnic area on the right, we recommend adding a solar-powered compacting waste bin, marked here in yellow-orange. A compacting bin could absorb the volume of a few other standard bins that are currently clustered there. And then those bins could be relocated to areas where bins are absent, which are marked along the bottom in green, the relocated standard bins. And that would help to reduce litter in a particularly sensitive area along the waterfront. Back at the picnic area, we also recommend installing a trash bag dispenser, almost like the waste bags you see for dog waste, but this would be full-size bags. One of the issues at play in some parks is that during summer weekends and holidays, when a lot of people are out picnicking and barbecuing, waste bins get overfilled, and residents or users will leave their trash there on the ground. So if they had free plastic bags that were dispensed for them, they could bag their own trash and then leave it for pickup. And finally, some signage could be added at the entrance gate on the left and also in the park area, in the picnic area, to alert users to where waste bins are placed and to also draw the connection between a park user's trash habits and the health of the river, which is a major feature of that park. We determined what costs would be involved to install these items and others like them, and which agencies would be partners in the installation. Our outreach programs would target 3 different groups in the community: school children, residents, and business owners. And one recommendation that could engage multiple groups would be an art contest to paint bins in local parks, both to increase the visibility of trash bins and also to engage the community in waste management awareness. We noticed that as we were walking through, sometimes bins in the parks just weren't very obvious. And our research suggested that by increasing the visual interest of a bin, you can actually double the amount of trash deposited there. So we laid out a plan by which community youth could submit designs in a contest and then paint the bins and present them at a community event like the Fall Field Day. Throughout all this, the New York City Department of Sanitation should be an important partner as our client further develops their waste reduction efforts. And this partnership would complement our client's current relationship with the New York City Parks Department, which itself has a relationship with DSNY. So we recommend that our client invite DSNY's engagement team to participate in Bronx River Alliance river cleanup events and to be a part of the judging panel for the art contest. And this would give DSNY the chance to engage with people outside of the context of routine service provision and outside of the context of being a regulatory enforcer, and just allow them to engage as a community neighbor and a resource for information. It would also give Bronx River Alliance the chance to understand waste management from DSNY's perspective. And ideally, these kinds of interactions would give a chance for conversations about shared goals to give rise to shared actions between DSNY, the Bronx River Alliance, and the Parks Department to address waste in the river. Overall, this project demonstrated for us the importance of a multifaceted approach to reducing waste pollution, and we've laid out several well-defined strategies by which the Bronx River Alliance can take action as part of a long-term approach. And thanks to community restoration efforts, the Bronx River has recently welcomed 2 very special residents, a pair of wild beavers, pictured here on the lower right. Beavers hadn't been seen on the Bronx River for over 200 years, but their return to a habitat that for a long time wouldn't support its own native wildlife was a big deal in the neighborhood, and to us, it's a reminder that change is really possible. I'd like to thank the Bronx River Alliance for being great partners throughout the last few months. I'd like to thank our advisor, Natalie Unwin-Curineri and George Seri-Nicolau, and especially thank my team for all their hard work. Thank you all for being here tonight. I would love to take your questions.
Okay, questions for Megan, please.
Yeah.
Hi. So you mentioned the styrofoam ban, which I think is a great idea, regardless of the river even. But how do you think that would help reduce waste in the river? Because even if there was a styrofoam ban, wouldn't styrofoam just be replaced with other types of plastic or things like that?
That's a very important point that we talked about. One of the problems with styrofoam is that it's not recyclable and that it breaks down very, very quickly. And our hope is that reducing styrofoam use would give way to use of more recyclable materials and would enable people to put them back into the circular stream in that way, or even to think about leapfrogging those strategies and getting to reusable materials.
Megan, let me ask you a question about the Bronx River Alliance's capacity to change things in Westchester County.
Yeah, that's a great point. So the Bronx River Alliance in name encompasses the entire watershed. They are based in the Bronx. A lot of their community contacts are there, but they have been successful in forging some new partnerships with the Westchester Parks Foundation and other groups in Westchester, which we're providing recommendations for them to expand upon. One of the things that's going on is the river cleanup events that Bronx River Alliance has been running in their neighborhoods for quite a while now have recently been expanded into Westchester neighborhoods as well. And so we're hoping that by sharing that data between the Westchester Parks Foundation and the Bronx River Alliance, it will enhance the understanding of both groups to manage the watershed as a whole. And also, the Parks Foundation in Westchester has also indicated their interest in being part of the advocacy mobilization in Westchester County.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have heard 5 excellent presentations. Let me say that for most of the students who participated in this course, the experience comes at the end of their time in the program, so this is something of a graduation party. So let's hear it for all the graduating students who worked so hard. I would also like to recognize the work of their intrepid faculty advisors, and I will not try to do it in alphabetical order because I always mess it up. Thomas Abdallah, Dr. Bob Cook, Suzanne DeRoche, Kizzy Charles Guzman, and Natalie Unwin-Curineri. Please give them a round of applause. So I have heard more than 50 of these presentations, or in my time as the coordinator of the Capstone Workshop, these definitely rank among the very best. Congratulations to all of you on your hard work, and not only good in terms of academic quality, but good in terms of sustainability and the value that you provided to these organizations. I am proud of you, and you should feel proud of yourselves. So have a great evening, good luck to all, and see you soon.